opportunity to speak here. So it is all from a perspective of a small biotech in Germany, in Potsdam near Berlin. And I would like to show you how we are still in the process of transforming our quite old infrastructure in terms of databases into something which is more sustainable for the future. And we spoke to ChemAxon probably the last 2 years about that. We are more or less at the finish line, and I'd like to show you how we did that. So AnalytiCon is a biotech company focusing on natural product drug discovery. We are located, as I said, in Potsdam, Germany. We are a private company founded in 2000, and we are around 65 people. Many of these are chemists and biologists. We have our own microbiology, discovery biology, library design and generation. We have a large department for separation and analytical chemistry, and discovery chemistry, medicinal chemistry as well. So why is there the use for database? Probably I will first explain what we are offering. We are offering natural product libraries, so we did isolate a lot of natural products in the past, around 23,000 compounds, which we structure elucidated by NMR. And we also developed a library of around 40,000 compounds having all a natural product motif. And there are derivatives of these, so fragments, macrocyclic compounds. And we have a small virtual library compared to other virtual libraries. And we already heard about very large libraries today. So these are all integrated in a drug discovery process, so we can use fragments for doing structural biology. We do virtual screening using our virtual library. Of course, we do a lot of library design, compound design for drug discovery. So with this comes a lot of data, and we have quite an heritage, so the last 20 years, where we assembled a lot of structural data, at least from our perspective, and a lot of analytical data. So it's a medium-sized structural data set, I would say, so below 200,000 compounds. But for us, it's quite a lot analytical data in terms of LCMS raw data and also NMR raw data. So that was all based on quite diverse set of software. So ChemFinder for the structure database combined with Access and a lot of old-fashioned Excel-based stuff. Also, there are some very old ISIS-based databases which we had to include. So that was very tedious and not fun to work with. So there were not too many people at AnalytiCon who really understand the structure of the overall infrastructure. So there was a real need to have something more sustainable, more modern. And the real need for a relational database, MySQL based. And we decided a long time ago that ChemAxon is our way to go, and we had long experience with InstantJChem or for a single user, and then decided to really switch. So what we also wanted to do is to have everybody at AnalytiCon have access to the databases he needed, so it should be browser-based. Viewing and editing. We had the need for registration for an inventory and for a relation to QC data, analytical data, but also biological data coming in from projects. So this is the last part over here. So it's always a little bit different from needs in big pharma, where you of course have also the needs for many of these. But we are also a provider of library compounds, so we have to deal with customers, with a lot of different customers. So there has really to be an inventory database, and then that's where all the problems normally start if you try to fit a already given system to our needs. We think we nearly managed that. So we have essentially two big databases. One is the one for our natural products. There we, of course, store the chemical structure of the elucidated natural product. We have to store batch information here. We also have now the possibility to include in a nice visual way polarity data. So this is what we call MACDEX, which is a machine and column independent retention time on our different LCMS systems. So you can directly see how polar a compound is, which is very helpful for deciding how to follow up. And this table over here assembles all the batch data which we have, including, for example, here, species of plants where the natural products were isolated from. So this is now really nice, accessible, and user-friendly. We implemented as well a direct link to our NMR data. So right now we can only open a visualization tool, and I know you also have ways to visualize NMR data. And we included a link for opening our LCMS data in form of PDFs as well. So this is just the NMR viewer. And we did more or less the same for the synthetic compounds, which we derived more or less from natural products. So this is from the number of compounds, the much larger database. In terms of data complexity, it's probably less complex. So we only have here the link to the LCMS data. I don't know why we didn't include the NMR here as well, but we probably will do that in the future. And of course, it's a lot of about batch management. So from which compound do we have which purity in which amount? So that's very important to manage then our customer needs. So nothing really fancy, but still you have to combine all these stuff. And of course we have I think decent number of IJChem licenses bought at ChemAxon, but we still had the need to roll out it to more people in the company, and especially for the lab staff. So there we thought Plexus Connect is really the way to go, because we just want to have a very user-friendly way to show the data to everybody who needs it. And that's the same databases I just mentioned. And we have nearly the same functionality here in Plexus Connect as we have in IJChem. So this is also true for the natural product synthetic library. And this one is also very down to earth, but it's very important for us. Our chemical database, so all the reagents are stored here. And this is the database which is really needed by the lab staff to plan the synthesis, to order new chemicals. So that's quite essential. And there I think we really took a step forward because now everybody can use it in a browser and it's very convenient. So what we still like to have there are a couple of more features. So it would be really great if we could use scripts and buttons in Plexus Connect. If we can use pull-down menus in form view. If we can have really import functionality. Maybe we are too stupid to really set it up, but although the button implies that there is the way to import data, we didn't manage to do so yet, but I hope you can help us with that. And what is especially would be very interesting to add new records in form view. And also definition of mandatory fields in form view. So that's all related to the form view. It all works in the grid view, but not in the form view. And that's probably because it's why it's great to be here. Maybe you can help us with that. So that was how we currently use Plexus Connect. There's a second topic I want to address, and that's library enumeration. And I think ChemAxon has done an incredible job, because I was looking around for a long time to have an enumeration tool which really works for me. And there were always some things missing. So, for example, for us, being a company producing really compounds and offering them, it's really, really mandatory that we have an identifier which is carried on and which we can determine from the get on. And the second is attractable symptom information, and that's very, very easy, I guess, to implement, but nobody really did it. And I can also make the statement that we tried all the Knime nodes from Schrödinger, and that was quite a disaster, I think. So now everything comes really together. So this is, I have to mention, a workflow without using the IJChem nodes. So it's quite complex, quite complicated. And what we can do with the IJChem nodes is even better. So of course, property calculation, generation of conformers, where we currently use another software, but of course there's also the capability using the ChemAxon resources. And of course, important export directly to the MySQL database, or an SD file, or a table of smiles. So all really basic stuff. And this is as well, but it's really, really nice to have, I think. So directly using reagents from the MySQL database, reading them in, and then convert them to smiles to use it in the workflow. So there's no need to really find the right reagents. Everything is in one database, and everything is in one place. No redundant storage of information. So this is just an example of a meta node, which we compiled without the IJChem nodes, and this part over here is all dealing with getting the symptom information into the workflow. So it really simplifies if we just use the Reactor node. So now you can just click on these checkboxes, and you have the information in the output. So very convenient for me. Also, one statement from my side, Marvin really enabled a lot in terms of the Knime workflows, because now you can have an editor which really knows chemistry and which can use smarts. So it's really, really incredible what you can do in terms of reaction mapping, and put together your reactions, the reactions you need. Just more or less a summary. So what we do in terms of computational chemistry. Of course, first we need a virtual library, and that's why we need a powerful enumeration tool, where we also can directly calculate properties and conformations and fingerprints. and then use software to do virtual screening. And afterwards select compounds coming out of the virtual screening in terms of properties or fingerprints or just the results from the virtual screening itself. So from my side, we achieved a lot. There's still some way to go, but I think it's all manageable. So we really have now a reliable and high-performance database, and that's the part I missed out. So of course, in terms of speed, that's something which really helped. We also have the accessibility via Plexus Connect, and we can use the IJChem Knime nodes for enumeration. Also, a better integration into Microsoft Office, and I really love Marvin, but I think also there are still some points where if you really want to publish structures or have them on slides, there are some minor things you can probably optimize in terms of how you change, for example, colors or formats. But I think that these are probably minor points. And as I already stated, more dynamic functionality in Plexus Connect, and maybe also the possibility to combine this with other dynamic HTML content in one view. So that was more or less what I wanted to show you. Thank you very much for the people inside of AnalytiCon, and also Luca and Anna for supporting us in this process, and you, of course, for your interest.
It's not a question, it's more of a comment. 4 of those 5 requests that you have mentioned are already manageable in Connect, so we can talk
after
walk through it.